All right, guys, welcome aboard once again to the Mac Forum Sunday video chat. Got a slew of things on the agenda for you this evening. Just usual roundup of forum news, a tip or trick here and there, and just a little bit of other Apple-related info. Hope you enjoy this evening's show. Want to get everything kicked off here. Hopefully I sound a little bit better than I did last week. But in the meantime, um, here's something for you to think about. As of literally about 5 minutes before the show, we had a total of 286,308 threads, consisting of 1,573,446 posts and 296,829 members. Out of those almost 297,000 members, the newest of which is Scarlett R. So welcome to Scarlett R. and all the new members that have joined in the last week. Hopefully you will find your time at Mac Forum interesting and enlightening. There's a lot of very good information, a lot of helpful members trying to answer questions that people might have. So if you have a question and the forum search doesn't turn up an answer, get the question posted in the forum. You don't have to be a member to read the forum, but you do need to be a member to ask, to post questions. So you got those questions, get them lined up, and we'll try our best to answer them for you. Of course, this week, let's go ahead and let's deal with a couple of bits of Apple news. One thing that caught my attention, this came from Cult of Mac, and it has to do with something written by a writer called Killian Bell at Cult of Mac. And it's talking about LA Unified School District is demanding a multi-million-dollar refund from Apple following a failed iPad program that originally was conceived of giving a total of 640,000 students iPads. Now this goes back a little over a year ago. They're exploring the possibility of litigation. It goes back to a 2013 program in which they were trying to give iPads to students within the district, and then those iPads could then be used for educational activities. The other partner, the third partner in this, was going to be Pearson Education. And the big confusion there seems to be that, first of all, some of the content which was supposed to be delivered by Pearson, according to the LA Unified District, that content wasn't available as on schedule, and that's a problem. They had a problem with that. They also had a problem in the sense that some of the iPads have gone missing, which is not a surprise. Any time you do these kinds of technological programs, there's always the possibility someone's going to take the device and repurpose it for their own use. And then the other problem was that although the iPads were supposed to be locked down in such a way that they limited what students could get to, some of them, of course, found ways around that and were not necessarily accessing the content that the district had intended for them to access. There's some question as to whether this will turn out to be a big issue or not. But certainly it's looking like that might be, the lawsuit might be going forward. We'll have to keep an eye on that and see. There's also some question as to whether there might have been a conflict of interest there. I believe the superintendent that originally approved the program might have been an Apple stockholder. So it's going to be a while before this one gets sorted out. But it is an interesting thing to watch. It's interesting to me because it points out how difficult it is. There's a lot of pushes in education to put technology in the hands of students. And anyone working in the school system, particularly those involved with technology, can tell you that it's not just always a matter of getting the newest devices and getting them in the hands of the most kids. There's all kinds of other issues that need to be addressed there, and that's going to be a problem anytime from any vendor. And I'm sure there are some people raising questions about couldn't they have used Android devices, or couldn't they have used possibly cheaper devices. So it's going to be a while probably before this one goes away. I'm not one of those folks that's qualified to decide what Apple's liability is in this one. I think it's going to be a while before we know what the discovery process is going to point out for that. Of course, more and more Apple Watch news is coming out. A few of the people who have seen them and gotten one of the private demonstrations have commented about it. Some of them have commented. Cult of Mac has an article of one of their writers talking about how much they like some of the things and the way the bands behave and the magnetic locking and all of these are great things. As I've said before, for me, I'm going to hold off a little bit. Not necessarily because of problems in the technology, but because I really don't wear a watch that much, and it's going to take a little bit to convince me that the watch can do things that I need to do. Now, if one of you guys wants to contribute toward the fund to get me one of those gold jobbies, hey, I'll take it, but as far as usefulness for me and the way I function in day to day, it's going to be a while before I look at the Apple Watch. I didn't get my first iPhone until the third one, until the 3GS. And it's not, as I discovered, and some of our members have pointed out, sometimes the first iteration of an Apple product is not the one that they're really most intrigued by. The first generation iPad, which I ordered it the first day you could pre-order. After about a year and a half, it would no longer run the operating system. A year and a half, less than 2 years later, it wasn't completely useless. I mean, it wasn't a brick, but it would not run some of the newer software. And there are some people that are concerned that a similar thing would happen with the Apple Watch. I'm personally going to have a wait and see kind of attitude. All right. A couple of other things that I wanted to be sure I mentioned this evening. One of them is an article from Cult of Mac. Rob Lefevre, whom I believe has written some other Mac-related things, and one of the things he's pointed out is he has on their site, and I'll put a link to it in the notes, 10 things that you can do in the Finder that a lot of people don't know about. Now, some of them are things that a lot of our members know, such as, for example, how to put your home folder in the sidebar. But some of them are kind of interesting. One of them caught my attention because I'm not sure if I have discussed this before. I don't use this tip often, although it is cool. And I don't know for sure if his article is the first time I've run into this. I think I've used it before, but not very often. Here's what you need to do to make this work. Most of you know. Let's assume for a moment that you're in the Finder, you single click and select an item, and you tap the space bar. That invokes something called Quick Look, where it tries to show you a preview of what that file is like. If it's an audio file or a video file, for example, it will attempt to play it. If it's in a format that QuickTime understands, it'll play it. Most of you also know that if you select several files and tap to do Quick Look, you can use the arrow keys to navigate among the files you've selected, and Quick Look will preview each of those in turn. As you move the arrow over one, it gets it gets previewed. Here's the part that's kind of cool. The effect is a little interesting. If you select several files, and then instead of just tapping the space bar, hold down the Option key and tap the space bar. Okay? What that does is preview. Quick Look comes up into a slideshow style interface, similar to what you do if you're looking at a slideshow in preview. To me, that is not only is the preview a little larger, but it looks to be an easier way to navigate among a bunch of files, because you've got your arrow keys down at the bottom and you can click and navigate through the sequence of files. This is definitely one that I'm going to try to put into the old muscle memory to get myself used to using this again, because I use Quick Look a lot. Now, also I want to mention just very, very quickly before we leave Quick Look, there are a couple of sites that have Quick Look plugins that make Quick Look more useful. They give Quick Look the ability to recognize some file types that it doesn't do right now, that it doesn't recognize. I have not used these under Yosemite, and even I think under Mavericks. So if you do a search and you find these and you try them, keep in mind I haven't used them in some time. So, but there are some out there if you scour the internet a little bit. All right, so that takes care of what we know about Quick Look. And this is another instance where we've mentioned before the Option key as a modifier for certain Apple commands has a lot of functionality. For example, right now, if I scroll up to my networking icon for my airport card, if I hold down the Option key while I click on that icon, I pull up a lot of information, including the MAC ID for my airport interface card. I still get a list of networks, available networks, just like I do without the Option key. But in addition to that, I get a lot of information about the current channel that I'm using, signal to noise ratio. All of that information is there. If I scroll over to the speaker icon to adjust volume, if I hold down the Option key while I click on that, I can set the input and output sources without having to go through the sound preference pane. So that Option key comes in really handy sometimes to control other things. And so that's something else that you want to keep in mind. I'm going to have a few more of these kinds of tips in short order. I'm just checking a couple of little bits here to see if we have any other folks tagging along this evening. I was hoping Rad Dave could make it this evening, but he may have some other engagements this time of year. Being retired, Dave can kind of come and go as he pleases. Color me jealous there, Dave. Okay, another little tip that's really helpful to you. The menu bar on my MacBook Pro is loaded down with a ton of different status icons. I've got my time machine icon up there. I've got the battery icon. I've got something for from menus that shows me temperatures, etc., etc., etc. All of these things are up there, and sometimes you might want to rearrange them. Okay, you can reorder them and even make some of them disappear. All right, what you can do is hold down the command key. I'm looking at this now on my notes to make sure that I'm reading this correctly. Just hold down the command key and then drag and drop the icons into the order that you want them to. Okay, this works with Apple-provided menu bar icons. A lot of third-party icons do not play nice with this little feature, but there are some that do. So kind of experiment with that. Once again, what you're going to do is you're going to hold on to the command key, hold the command key down, and click on an icon and try to move it. And there are going to be some that will work, some that won't. If you want to get rid of an icon, command click and drag one of the menu bar icons out into the middle of the screen. Drag it downward into the middle of the screen. So you're going to do a command click. You're going to do command click and drag. Okay. Whereas in the other one, you're going to do command click and slide them around. If you want to get rid of one, it's just a command click and then drag the icon that you want to remove down into the screen area. Similar to the behavior that you would do to make a dock icon poof. In that case, you're dragging upward into the screen area. In the case of the menu bar, you're having to hold down the option key, which you don't when you remove something from the dock, and or hold down, the command key, and then drag that icon down to get rid of it. Helpful if you're trying to clean out your menu bar icons. All right, now there are a couple of others that this I think again comes from Rob Lefevre at Cult of Mag, and so does this next one. If you have a bunch of files that you want to rename, there are some third-party utilities that will rename files, and some of them are very good. But if you want another way to do it, give the rename files service a try. What you're going to do is select all the files that you want to rename, right-click or control-click on one of them, and then choose rename X items from the contextual menu. Instead of saying rename X, it's going to be a number. If you chose 5, it's going to be renamed 5 items. If you chose 10, it's going to be renamed 10, and so forth. Then you do a simple replace text rename. This is a good one if you're renaming a bunch of things in sequence. Add text to the end of the current name, or add a number or a counter or something like that, a date, something like that. It's really good for that. If you need more flexibility in renaming, then you'll probably need a third-party renaming utility. And then that kind of gives you a little bit of an idea of some of the tips that I got from Cult of Mag this week. They have a lot of good information. I've been going to them periodically over the last several months. It's not the only source for tips and tricks. Some of them come from our forum members. Some of them come from a wide variety of other sites. I want to also put a note in, bug in your ear, so to speak, about searching in Safari on the iPhone, or specifically on iOS devices, because it should work on iPad as well. For example, that if you're searching, let's say that you have a web page up in Safari on your main machine, on your Mac, and you want to search for a specific word or phrase in that web page. Like say I'm on the Mac forum page and I want to search for a specific word or phrase. I can do Command F. I open the page, I do Command F, and when I do that, I can then search that page and confine the search to that page. Well, I did not know that you could do this with the iPhone. I hadn't really tried it a whole lot. There are only a couple of times I've used this function, the search function where I'm searching within a web page, and usually I'm looking for something that's pretty obvious. But here's the tip. When you open your Safari app and navigate to a page that you want to search, okay, and you want to search within that page, once you've got the page loaded, tap in the URL bar where the web page address is, type in your search term, and you'll get results for both the web page, from both the web and your current page. So in other words, what you're doing is you're bringing up a page that you want, then you're tapping the URL bar, the address bar. You're going to type the phrase that you want to search for in that web address bar. And that's going to bring up the page that you have and other search results with that phrase in it. What you're then going to do is tap the search results for the current page. You'll see an option to search within the current page. And Safari will reopen your current page and bring that web page back up, highlight the first search, and right there on the page. And you can navigate through the terms with the left and right arrow keys. So essentially what it's doing is you're typing your search into the web address bar. You've already got your web page up. You're typing your search into the web address bar. And then it's going to pull up a bunch of stuff, some from that web page, some from other pages. You're going to go to the one for the page that you're on because that's where you wanted to search. And then you can use the arrow keys to navigate to the various instances of the word, like a Command G would on OS X. So that's something to keep in mind. It's certainly a tip that I had not been aware of. Okay, when you're finished, you can hit Done in the lower right-hand corner, and you'll go back to basic web browsing. And I want to throw in, I did not include this tip earlier. Excuse the finger in the face there for a second. I want to throw in something that I had not intended to include tonight, mainly because I hadn't played around with photos a lot. But this is something that might have answered a question for one of our members, and so I'll mention it. If you launch photos and you cannot find some of the editing things that you think should be there, like sharpen, etc., 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 like sharpen and things like this, what you're going to want to do is launch photos, open the photo that you want to edit, go into, I believe it's the edit menu, and choose show editing tools. You'll see it. That's not exactly the way it's worded. When you get that far and you look on the right side, you'll see several different buttons on the right side of the image. And the third one up from the bottom brings up some of the editing tools that people are likely to want to mess with, that you can do this with. If the function that you need is not there, click on the blue link that says Add at the top. Chances are it is there, it just hasn't been added to the short list. That list that you see down in the bottom is kind of like a favorites function list. So if you do not see the one that you want in that enhancement section, look for it. Look for it up at the top where it says add, and you can add it to the list. Um, some people are finding that a little cumbersome to get used to initially. I think it has its place because it cuts down on the clutter and etc. It behaves in some ways similar to some of the third-party applications that are available for iOS devices, third-party photo editors for iOS devices. Some of them behave this way. So if you're used to that, or if you've done a lot of photo editing using your iPad or your iPhone, that will probably be second nature to you. With any of the programs that you get from Apple, with any iteration of the OS, poke around in the program a little bit. Sometimes they have things hidden in places that you wouldn't necessarily think of. Some of these applications can do a lot of things that you wouldn't think of. Sometimes the functionality is hidden. Just to cut down on the interface clutter, you can argue about whether that's a good idea or bad idea, but it's certainly something to think about when you're looking at these applications. And once again, if you're stuck on something like that, that's a good time to hit the forum and see what's going on. See if there's somebody, excuse me for just a second, see if there's somebody that can help with it. There usually is. We've had a lot of questions about the recently having to do with how do I prepare a computer to sell. If I'm going to do a clean install. In the past, you sold the disk with the computer, but with the advent of starting with 10.7 and above, there is no disk that comes with the computer. You have to install from an internet download or a USB installer, and that's caused some confusion, especially since people are saying, well, how do I do it if I don't want to use my ID? I don't want to have to use my Apple ID to do the download and have that tied to my account on a machine that I'm about to sell or give away or whatever. There is a way to do that. Tom, one of our moderators, otherwise known as Bob Toomey to you on the forum, has posted a suggestion for how to do that, and it gets the user to the setup screen without you having to enter your password, and therefore the download isn't tied to your account anymore. I'm gonna probably, as the break comes up here shortly, I'm on the verge of summer break. I can't believe it. Summer break is coming up quickly, and one of the things I may do here before you know it is write up like a blog post describing a couple of things, how to get yourself prepared for this. For example, one of the things is that people need to prepare for is when you are selling your Mac, deauthorizing that machine from your iTunes account. Now, in the past, you had to do this on the machine that you were going to deauthorize. That posed an interesting problem if, for example, the machine died all of a sudden. Now you couldn't deauthorize that machine easily because you didn't have access to it anymore. You know, the logic board is croaked, the machine's not worth fixing. You don't have access to the machine anymore to deauthorize it. You used to have to contact Apple support to get that taken care of. Well, they made a change to that procedure a while ago. Now, when you go into the iTunes store and you access your account, there is an option in iTunes to deauthorize. What it does, though, is that it deauthorizes everything associated with that account, every device associated with that account, and then all you have to do is go back and reauthorize the accounts. And that's as simple as when you try to play iTunes content on a device that is not authorized, it's going to warn you. You tell it you want to authorize that device, and you're pretty much done, unless you hit your limit on the number of devices. Now, keep in mind that you can do this deauthorization procedure once a year. After that, you're probably going to have to call them if you really need to deauthorize. But it's a better option than they had in the past, but it could still use some improvement. So I hope that helps answer a question for some of you. And that's going to pretty much do it for the stuff that I had prepared for this evening. The tips, I know we ran through them kind of quickly, but that's okay. I'm kind of dodging impending thunderstorms here. Wanted to get the show in before any power issues or other things become a problem. Hopefully you've found some things helpful here on this show. We'll be back next week. I do want to thank you for joining me this week. I hope that you've enjoyed the show. We've certainly enjoyed putting together the information to bring it to you. Over the summer, I have a couple ideas, the things we might be worth doing in the show. Over the summer, we may alter the schedule just a little bit to allow a couple of our members who that I'd like for you to get to know and we'd like to have on as guests to join us. They do occasionally. Some of them are not able to make it on a Sunday. So over the summer, we might play around with the schedule a little bit to allow some of them to join us and contribute their knowledge to the show. We'll be looking at some other things, try to get an interesting setup going for the show. Of course, your input is always welcome. I want to thank you for joining me this week. I hope that you've enjoyed it. And until next week, this has been your host, Sly Dude, on the Sunday Mac Forum video chat. We'll see you next week. And as usual, I'll see you in the forum.